My name is Matilda. This is Kira, Kirusha, Kiriska, Kirka, my dog. And I love you, random citizen. I also love your dog. And if you don't have a dog, you came to the right place because I'll be discussing the pros and cons. I'll be discussing whether you should adopt or buy your dog, whether you should get a mixed breed from the shelter, or is it better to buy a purebred dog. Kira is a purebred short-hair border collie, but even though I have a purebred dog, I don't think it's such a clear-cut thing whether you should adopt or shop. In my country, in my environment, there's a certain stigma against shopping for dogs, and the general sentiment is that you should definitely adopt a dog. But then again, since I've lived in the part of the city where I live, I've decided that many people are not equipped to adopt, and that's what I'll start with, adoption. So the first argument I hear for adoption of a mixed breed dog from the shelter, because in general, let's be honest, most dogs from the shelter are mixed breed, is that these dogs are more healthy. Are more healthy. And this just isn't true. The fact of the matter is that shelter dogs, you don't know their history. So if you adopt a dog, you don't get a dog that is a blank slate. You get a dog whose heritage and whose medical history, whose parents you do not know, and because of that, any diseases and medical issues that will occur, which have a genetic background, will just be a surprise. The fact of the matter is that if you don't know the heritage of the dog, you just don't know what to expect. And in general, it's kind of true that if the dog looks like a breed that is generally rather healthy, so if a dog looks like, I don't know, any kind of pointer, or for example, just looks like is not brachycephalic, does not have this flat nose, or does not have any obvious issues, it might be more healthy. But you might not know, for example, that a tendency to bloat or hip dysplasia runs in the family of this dog, even though it doesn't look like it could get hip dysplasia or any, let's say, shoulder issues or muscle dystrophy or any other disease. So when it comes to health, I definitely would not agree that mixed breed dogs or adopting a dog guarantees you a healthier dog. You just might get, you just don't know what to expect, is my point. Okay, so the second thing and the second most common argument for adoption of a dog from the shelter is that these dogs are free or come at a low cost, which is true. Like, the fees vary from region to region, place to place, country to country, because I know that some countries do demand a pretty high adoption fee. They are generally way cheaper than purebred dogs. So when it comes to like the entrance fee, the first fee, yes, they are way cheaper. That's unavoidable. But do take into account that when you get a dog from the shelter, as I said before, you don't know their history, so you might get yourself a dog that has a serious medical issue, which is unexpected, and also you might need to involve a behavioral specialist at some point, because you get an unknown, and while the dog might have behaved wonderfully in all the situations he or she was exposed to while being in the shelter, there still may be some places or some issues where behavioral problems will just come to light, and then you will probably need help to solve them. As a third, let's say, argument or a thing that I want to discuss is general, as I said, that dogs from the shelter are a big unknown, no matter how you put it. Even if the dogs spend, unfortunately, years in the shelter, that prevents him from being exposed to certain situations, which in turn can cause, for example, a panic or an aggressive. I won't say aggressive because I don't want to assume that these dogs are aggressive. However, if you get a dog from the shelter, for example, who never interacted with a kid, or has never seen a horse, or has never seen a camper, or some things that are just not easy to come by for people who socialize shelter dogs, but are very common in your area, you might get yourself a dog with a problem. And of course you can solve it, but no buts about it. You can solve it. Just it's very important to remember, if you get a shelter dog, you don't know everything about them. I would definitely encourage people to before they just let the dog loose, the dog is your responsibility. You need to check whether the dog is fine with every situation that and every place you're planning to bring him to, whether he's fine with every group of people that he will be exposed to. For example, that's a very common thing, that for example shelter dogs might never get a chance to be exposed to people with certain mobility issues, so different so they who walk in a different way, who move in a different way, and never have interacted with people on wheelchairs, or have never seen a baby stroller, which are things that are, you know, common and might be an everyday thing in their life. So be sure to not let the dog just roam around and supervise any first time interaction. So when you get a dog, though it's a pain in the butt, you need to supervise the dog's interaction with every single thing: a domestic cat, an outside cat, any wild animal, separately a baby, a toddler, a bigger child, a teenager, a person with mobility issues, just because it's a stimuli that the dog is not familiar with. And I have firsthand seen a dog who panicked because he was never exposed to a person in the wheelchair, so he just got very agitated when he saw that kind of person for the first time. It's your responsibility. You cannot take a dog on public transit without a muzzle if you've never taken the dog on the public transit before. Just in general, you need to supervise that kind of dog very much. And the fourth thing that I would like to talk about, thing number 4, which is maybe the biggest thing, I don't know, all of these are important, is when you take a dog from the shelter, you're doing a good thing. You're putting good into the world. Like, provided you do right by the dog, you're doing a good thing. You're helping a homeless animal, you're giving them a home, you're hopefully giving them just help that they need, and it's a good deed that you're doing. And also you're gaining a lifetime friend. I don't want to say that those kind of dogs are like extra thankful for that, because dogs are lovely and thankful in general, but you can, like, if you do right by the dog, and don't just, if you do right by the dog, you just can pat yourself on the back because you have done a good thing. But that good thing might require extra care and effort on your part. Okay, I'm recording it to add later, and this kind of fits between the adopted dogs and the bought dogs. So while it's true that you do a good thing while adopting a dog, there are instances in which you just cannot adopt a dog, or it just makes no sense to adopt rather than buy. First of them, it's obvious: allergies. If you have a dog allergy, or your child does, or any of the people who live with you, you cannot really in good conscience adopt a dog from the shelter. You can only consider certain breeds, and that even might not work. Before purchasing a dog from a breed, arrange to meet and hang out to verify whether you do have an allergic reaction to this dog. because you can be allergic to the dog's fur, like dandruff, saliva, different things. So allergies in general are something to consider, and that will prevent you from getting a shelter dog. You will be allergic to every kind of shelter dog for sure. And the other thing is that purebred dogs are bred for specific purposes. So if you intend to pursue a certain kind of hobby or have a job for a dog, then you should rather consider buying a certain breed of a dog. For example, if you have horses and you would like your dog to accompany you on like horse trails, is that what it's called? It might be difficult to find a shelter dog that will be equipped to just run next to you and not panic when seeing horses in such a close proximity. Other things that are like, if you have a certain kind of animal that you need herded, then there are specific breeds of herding dog that will do the job for you. So shelter dogs won't really do that. It's a huge risk to take a dog on the assumption that it might maybe do a job. And the third one is obviously dogs that are aids to disabled people, so like seeing eye dog, or just in general certain assistance dogs. It depends, but for the most expensive programs, such as those for like seeing eye dogs, a lot of dogs fail this course. So lowering the risk by taking in a specific breed which will be most likely well equipped to finish the course and then work as a certain dog aid is just something that should happen. So allergies and jobs are something that kind of might prevent you from adopting a dog, and it might be better to actually buy one because your needs are might be too specific to find a shelter dog that will fulfill them. That's my point. Thank you. Moreover, if you do intend to pursue a certain passion or sport with a dog who's from a shelter, you might unfortunately hurt them. For example, my family has a dog who's of the same build like my border collie Kira, but I would never though they shape-wise look almost the same, I wouldn't, for example, try frisbee as a sport with our mixed breed shelter dog, even though it looks the same, because I don't know whether her joints will support that kind of sport. Because, for example, frisbee puts a lot of strain on the joints, and that's why certain dog breeds excel, for example, in that sport, because their build allows them to do it with a relatively small risk. Whereas if you get a shelter dog, a shape is not a guarantee, or a similarity is not a guarantee that the dog will be well suited to a certain sport or a hobby. Okay, on the other side, there are purebred dogs like Kirusha, and let me start with the biggest thing. These dogs are expensive. That is definitely true when you're getting a purebred dog, because remember, if you're getting a disclaimer, make sure that the breeder that you're buying the dog from is registered with the right kind of organization in your country. I know in Poland it's Polski Związek Kynologiczny, and in America it's American Kennel Club. If your dog is, for example, a herding dog, it can be International Sheepdog Society, ISDS. That's like universal in most countries. Make sure that the breeder is registered, because if it's not, then it's getting a puppy from unverified breeder is like getting the worst things from both purebred puppies and the worst traits from shelter dogs. Is just the worst, because you're almost guaranteed health issues, not only those that are characteristic from to the breed, also those that are like typical, that also the issues because of neglect of those puppies. You're just guaranteed a multitude of problems. Be sure to get a puppy from a verified breeder. Okay, that was a side tangent, but again, expensive. If a certain breed becomes popular, more breeders tend to breed it, and then prices of the dog vary. So you can find a cheap-ish or a cheaper registered dog, but if you're getting a dog from a breeder, it's just bad to just don't cut costs. Be sure that to find a good breeder, talk to the breeder, make sure to establish some sort of contact, make sure that the breeder is wants to stay in touch with you. A good breeder will be open to questions from you at a later date, and let's be honest, the breeder is the best person to ask questions about your breed of dog. Just to sum up, yes, these dogs are expensive, and it's not good to save on purebred dogs. Just choose the best breeder regardless of cost, and if you cannot afford the dog at this time, it's better to wait until it's a comfortable purchase. Now, argument number 2 is usually that purebred dogs are not healthy. That's simply not true. Of course, obviously, dogs with shorter skulls like pugs or bulldogs like this have issues that are related to their deformed skull. In general, there are those overbred dogs that are guaranteed health issues. Frenchies, English bulldogs, as I said, boxers, and I'm not sure whether it's true in every country, but for example, in Poland, cancer is a common problem in boxer dogs. So while they don't really get the breathing issues all that often, despite having a short skull, they do most commonly die of cancer. I think I've seen a statistic that over half of boxers in my country die of cancer. So it's important to check for that kind of stuff. But there are breeds that are generally healthy. For example, a husky or a border collie, I'd say it's generally rather healthy. But if you check a breed, there is such a thing as most common medical issues, and that's not a bad thing unless we're talking about the overbred dogs like Shar-Pei and others. If you see most common medical issues in a breed, that's a good thing, because that means that these issues are quite common in a breed. The breeder checks for them, and when you're wanting to find a breeder for yourself, you're able to ask whether these medical issues were common in the in your dog's line, whether his parents, great-parents, grandparents, great-grandparents had these issues. So if you say that a certain dog breed has a tendency to a certain medical issue, it doesn't mean that the dog is going to get it. It means that you can check whether it's likely to get it, and can take steps to prevent that from happening. Of course, unfortunately, it might happen sometimes, but most likely, if your dog's lineage is healthy, your dog will be healthy as well. So, are purebred dogs healthy? If we're not talking about the overbred breeds, yes, they are actually they are more guaranteed to be healthy if you do your research than dogs from the shelter. The third thing I hear when talking about adopting purebred dogs is the argument that if you get a puppy, it will bond with you better. And in general, that's just not true. If you do your research and get a shelter dog, and meet up with them and build a bond, you can build a bond with any dog. Also, there are dogs that don't tend to be as close to their humans. If you get multiple dogs, they are likely to be more bonded to each other than to you, in general, and things like that. The argument, getting a puppy is just better because they will bond better with you when they're a puppy, that's not important. When you're getting a purebred dog, don't just go by looking cute and by size. Think about their psychological needs, their psychological traits, their need for exercise, their need for grooming and stuff like that. That's the biggest plus in general of purebred dogs, that they will most likely be what you expect if you do your research. If you get a dog from the shelter and it turns out to have issues, that's just life. But if you get a dog as a puppy from a good breeder and it turns out to be too much for you when it comes to their needs, or you neglect certain step of your dog's socialization, like getting your dog like teaching your dog to be able to exist in the world, then that's your fault. So I don't want to say it's a bigger responsibility, but maybe in a way, if you get a puppy, you are responsible for teaching it to be a good dog and to get along with, with everybody and anybody. So yeah. Okay, and just to wrap up, Matilda, I would like to get a dog, but kind of just like those two things, like both getting a shelter dog and getting a purebred dog sounds like a ton of work. Like either I will have to work with a behavioral specialist on potential problems and have unverified medical history, or I will have to put a ton of work into research and then teaching my dog teaching my dog. What should I do? And I have an answer for you. There is a way of obtaining a dog that is the safest option and in my opinion, like first-time dog owners, if you want to get a dog, just unless it's a passion project and you need to go either of those two ways, to me, the safest and best way to get a dog is to find online people whose life circumstances changed and they cannot take care of their beloved dog anymore. It's very, very easy to find online people, for example, who because of financial issues need to downgrade to a one-bedroom apartment and they have kids and they cannot take care of their beloved pet and they are looking for a good home. That's the best way to get a dog, because you then get the best of both of those things. You get a dog that has been raised for a long time, has been in the family for a long time. You can ask questions about any medical issues that the dog had. You can ask how the dog got along in different situations, and even if, for example, the dog that you're going to adopt has never been in the presence of let's say, I don't know, has never seen a train or whatever, some stimuli that's common in your daily life, then you will know that it's something that you need to look out for, and it will not be a surprise. If you prepare yourself and interview this person that you're trying to adopt a dog from, well, that's, in my opinion, the safest way. My point is, the safest way for a first dog is find a breed that you like, and then just look for people who need to rehome a dog who is that breed or a mix of that breed, maybe. So that's my recommendation. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. Also, I have other social media. I have a Reddit, Twitch, Instagram. My dog has an Instagram. They will all be in the description. But I'm everycraft on everywhere. So just feel free to give me a comment, and I'll be very happy to respond to any questions. Thank you. Buzi, Kiruśku. No chodź, buzi. Buzi. My little child.